When you bring a new puppy home, your life instantly turns into like this chaotic, hyper-documented training montage.
Oh, absolutely. It completely takes over your life.
Right. You're reading all the training manuals, you're tracking the potty schedule with militant precision.
Spreadsheets.
Yeah,
People literally make spreadsheets for potty breaks.
exactly. And you're taking, easily 1,000 pictures a week. But then if you jump to the complete opposite end of the timeline when that same dog reaches their senior years, that hyper-focus snaps right back.
Yeah, the urgency definitely returns.
Suddenly, you are deeply invested in orthopedic beds, loading ramps for the SUV, and, urgent veterinary diagnostics. But what happens during that massive stretch of time in between?
That is the million-dollar question.
Yeah.
Void in the middle.
Today, we are pulling from a really compelling transcript from the Dog Health Academy. It's a deep dive specifically dissecting adult preventive care. Now, they use golden retrievers as their primary model throughout this material,
Which makes sense, yeah.
but the biology and the strategy, they apply to virtually any dog. So our mission today is to decode what is arguably the most overlooked phase of a dog's life, the maintenance phase.
The maintenance phase, I love that term for it.
We are figuring out how you, the listener, can actually become a proactive advocate for your dog's lifelong health, making sure they don't just endure those middle years, but actually build the physiological capital they need to thrive later on.
Which is so critical.
Okay, let's unpack this. If you step back and look at it, dog adulthood is essentially the middle child of pet ownership.
Oh, that is a perfect way to put it. The middle child.
Right, because puppyhood demands all the flashy attention, and senior care demands all the urgent medical focus. But adulthood, it just flies completely under the radar.
It really does.
It's a random Tuesday, your dog is snoozing on the couch, and everything seems perfectly fine.
It is the unglamorous middle chapter, without a doubt.
Yeah.
But the underlying reality, and really the entire reason we are tearing into this topic today, is that the microscopic habits built during this exact unglamorous period dictate everything.
Everything.
Everything. They dictate with absolute certainty how that dog's body will handle aging. Nobody just arrives at a vibrant, healthy senior dog by accident.
Yeah, it doesn't just magically happen.
Exactly. A resilient senior dog is the direct biological result of consistent preventive maintenance during their adult years. It's the physiological foundation.
Which naturally leads us to the ultimate foundational relationship for that maintenance, and that is the veterinary partnership.
Yes, the cornerstone of the whole thing.
The transcript makes a very strong case that adult dogs need, at a minimum, an annual wellness exam. And they aren't just talking about a quick look over, they are talking about comprehensive evaluations here.
Right, it's not just checking the weight and giving a treat.
No, the vet is assessing body condition scoring. They are listening for subtle nuances in heart and lung sounds. They're testing the actual range of motion and resistance in the joints, analyzing the lipid barrier of the skin.
It's a full systemic audit, basically.
Yeah. The stated clinical goal is to monitor for early predispositions, things like the early degradation of joint cartilage or subtle lenticular sclerosis in the eyes, and finding this long before you would ever notice a limp or a clumsy moment at home.
Because by the time you notice it at home, it's usually advanced.
But I really have to press on this because I know a lot of people listening are in this exact scenario. If my dog is running around the yard, eating every meal with enthusiasm, successfully chasing squirrels, and seems objectively healthy, isn't this just a waste of time?
I hear that all the time.
Honestly, it feels like paying $100 for someone to just look at my dog and say, yep, that's a dog. Why push for medical intervention when nothing is actually broken?
It's a completely rational hesitation. And it is probably the single biggest trap well-meaning owners fall into. Well, we are conditioned by our own human healthcare systems, right? We view the doctor as the mechanic you only visit when the car is actively smoking.
Yeah, that's definitely true. We wait for symptoms.
But if we connect this to the bigger picture, the clinical value of that annual exam has absolutely nothing to do with looking for immediate trouble. It is purely an exercise in establishing a baseline.
A baseline, right.
When your veterinarian is palpating your dog's abdomen or manipulating their hips, they are not just going through a mandatory checklist, they are actively mapping the specific resistance of your dog's stifle joint or the exact size of their popliteal lymph nodes.
They're trying to figure out what normal looks like.
Exactly. They need to know what normal feels like for that specific animal.
Because the baseline normal for a highly active 4-year-old golden retriever is going to be biologically totally different than normal for a 4-year-old greyhound or even another golden retriever.
Precisely. Every individual dog operates on their own unique biological rhythm. If the vet knows the precise tension in your dog's knees when they are at peak health, they have the critical comparative data needed to spot microscopic deviations a year later.
So they have something to compare it to.
Right. Let's say you only bring your dog in when they are visibly limping at age 6. The vet has no historical context. They don't know if this is an acute cranial cruciate ligament tear that happened in the backyard yesterday, or if it's the result of osteoarthritis that has been slowly remodeling the joint for 36 months.
I see.
The baseline provides the context required to make that distinction. It fundamentally transforms the dynamic from a transactional fix-my-broken-dog interaction into a proactive, data-driven partnership.
But that internal baseline the vet establishes is essentially useless if the dog's daily environment is just tearing it down, which shifts the conversation from the external physical exam to the internal preventative measure.
Yes, the invisible shield.
Exactly, creating this invisible shield inside the dog. The transcript outlines 3 primary pillars for this internal defense: vaccines, parasite prevention, and routine blood work. And what is really striking here is how much region and lifestyle act as the ultimate wildcards.
Oh, massive wildcards.
It's not a universal checklist for every dog.
Far from it. The geographical and lifestyle variables dictate everything about how you build that shield. If you have a dog living in a heavily wooded area in the Northeast, their immune system is facing a completely different threat matrix.
Right, like ticks everywhere.
High tick loads, specific strains of Lyme disease, anaplasmosis. It's totally different compared to a dog living in a high-rise apartment in an arid urban environment.
But even that apartment dog isn't totally safe.
Exactly. Even in that urban environment, if that high-rise dog drinks from a communal city puddle, they might be exposed to leptospirosis. Their daily routine, whether they are retrieving ducks in a lake, wrestling at a high-volume doggy daycare, or just walking on city pavement, dictates exactly which pathogens they need an active defense against.
And the baseline blood panel is the diagnostic tool that actually verifies if that customized defense system is holding up under the surface.
Yes, the blood panel is key.
Reading through this, I realized taking a baseline wellness blood panel is exactly like taking a comprehensive before picture right before you start tearing into a massive home renovation.
That's a great analogy.
You have to know exactly where the original load-bearing beams are and where the original pipes were laid.
Yes, and if you don't map out where those pipes are originally, you won't have any idea why the living room ceiling is suddenly leaking 5 years down the line.
Right.
In a dog, those pipes are their kidney values, their liver enzymes, their red blood cell counts.
Right. So if you run a blood panel when the dog is completely healthy at age 3, and their baseline liver enzymes naturally sit on the slightly higher end of the normal spectrum, you have that data.
You've documented it.
So then, when they are 8 years old and those enzymes are still slightly high, the vet doesn't have to panic and order $1,000 in liver ultrasounds, because they know from the before picture that this is just your dog's normal architectural baseline.
And conversely, if those values are normally rock bottom and suddenly they spike to the high end of normal, a vet without a baseline would say, well, it's still in the normal range, you're fine.
Because on paper it looks okay.
Right. But a vet with that historical data sees a massive relative jump and knows there's a hidden fire starting in the dog's system. The blood work catches the metabolic trends long before the dog ever shows you a physical symptom.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Because the clinic visits, the vaccines, the blood panels, that is all managed by the veterinarian. But the actual minute-by-minute execution of a dog's health happens in the home.
Is all on the owner?
Exactly. The responsibility shifts entirely to the daily grind. The material breaks this daily physical maintenance down into weight management, exercise, nutrition, and dental care. I want to zero in on weight and exercise first, because the language used here is really specific.
They don't mince words.
No, they don't just say don't let your dog get fat. They emphasize that owners should always be able to easily feel the dog's ribs without pressing through a layer of excess fat. And the dog should have a clearly defined waist.
Which is much leaner than most people think looks normal.
Right. But let's dig into the biological mechanics of that. Why is a few extra pounds so detrimental? We often just think of it as a dog having to carry around a slightly heavier backpack.
Thinking of it as just a heavy backpack is exactly where the misunderstanding lies. Adipose tissue, which is fat, is not just inert, dead weight sitting on the dog's frame.
It's not just padding.
Not at all. Adipose tissue is essentially a highly active endocrine organ. It is constantly secreting pro-inflammatory hormones and cytokines directly into the dog's system.
Wait, so the fat itself is actually pumping out inflammation?
Yes, it creates a state of chronic low-grade systemic inflammation. So when a dog is carrying excess weight, the mechanical stress of that extra gravity is certainly wearing down the cartilage in their joints.
Sure, that makes sense.
But simultaneously, those inflammatory cytokines produced by the fat tissue are chemically attacking and degrading that exact same joint cartilage from the inside out.
That is wild. I mean, if you're listening to this while out walking your 4-year-old dog right now, you might think you are entirely in the clear because they aren't limping today.
Oh, absolutely.
But what you're actually doing on this walk by keeping them lean and moving is building the joint capital and mitigating the chemical inflammation that they are going to desperately need when they are 10.
That is the perfect way to frame it.
Yeah.
Joint capital. Exercise isn't just about burning calories. It is literal preventive medicine.
Yeah, it's proactive.
The mechanical motion of walking actually stimulates the production of synovial fluid, which lubricates the joints. It strengthens the cardiovascular system, and it provides the critical mental enrichment that staves off behavioral degradation.
It all works together.
It does. You pair that daily movement with strict portion control and life stage appropriate nutrition, and you are actively starving that inflammatory process.
But of all the daily habits discussed in the transcript, the one that blew my mind the most was the dental care.
Oh, yeah. This one is huge.
The transcript points out that dental health is drastically underestimated by almost everyone. We just accept doggy breath as a funny, albeit gross, cosmetic quirk of owning a dog.
Right, people just buy breath mints for dogs.
Exactly. We might throw them a dental chew occasionally, but actual routine oral care like brushing their teeth is rare. How does ignoring the plaque on a dog's canine tooth actually impact the rest of their body?
What's fascinating here is that we have to stop looking at the mouth as an isolated feature. The mouth is the primary gateway to the dog's entire systemic environment.
Meaning what, exactly?
Their entire circulatory system and all their vital organs. When you ignore dental care, plaque builds up on the teeth.
Yeah.
That plaque is essentially a biofilm composed of bacteria.
Gross, but okay.
Over time, that plaque mineralizes into hard calculus, which pushes against the gums, causing them to become inflamed and bleed.
Which creates a direct open wound in the mouth.
Precisely.
Mm-hmm.
You now have microabrasions in the highly vascular gum tissue sitting right next to a massive colony of bacteria. Every single time that dog chews a piece of kibble or gnaws on a toy, the mechanical pressure forces that oral bacteria, often really aggressive strains like Streptococcus, directly into the dog's bloodstream.
Wait, straight into the bloodstream, just from chewing kibble?
Yes.
And once it's in the bloodstream, it has a free pass to travel anywhere in the body.
It filters rapidly through the entire system. That bacteria doesn't just disappear. The immune system has to fight it. But more dangerously, that circulating bacteria has a tendency to latch onto the microstructures inside the dog's vital organs. It settles on the filtration units of the kidneys, causing microscopic damage over time. It latches onto the leaflets of the heart valves, contributing to endocarditis and long-term valvular disease.
That is terrifying.
It is. By maintaining a daily habit of brushing or utilizing clinically proven dental supportive routines, you are not just keeping their teeth white. You are actively shutting the door on a daily bacterial invasion of their heart and kidneys.
That is a staggering perspective shift. Brushing a dog's teeth is fundamentally systemic medical care.
Absolutely.
And because the owner is the one tasked with this daily physical care, the feeding, the walking, the brushing, the owner is naturally the only person positioned to notice when the physiological baseline starts to drift.
The vet isn't there in the living room every day.
Right. So the focus of the material completely shifts here, casting the owner in the role of a health detective. We are supposed to be conducting intentional at-home physical checks.
Yes. Systematically running your hands over the dog to check the integrity of the skin, looking for hidden lumps, inspecting the paw pads for micro tears, checking the eyes for unusual discharge, and paying particular attention to the ears.
The ears are a massive focal point, especially given that the core example in the transcript is the golden retriever. They emphasize that floppy-eared breeds require intense scrutiny.
Constant vigilance.
Owners need to be constantly checking for redness, an accumulation of dark wax, an unpleasant odor, or any sign that the dog is uncomfortable when the base of the ear is touched. But why is the floppy ear such a biological liability compared to a dog with upright ears?
It comes down to basic anatomy and airflow. The canine ear canal is already uniquely designed. It is L-shaped, meaning it drops down vertically before taking a sharp horizontal turn toward the eardrum.
So it's already kind of a trap.
Yeah, that shape naturally hinders the expulsion of debris. When you take that L-shaped canal and drop a heavy, fur-covered flap right over the opening, you completely cut off the air circulation.
You essentially build a dark, sealed room.
Exactly. You trap the natural body heat and any environmental moisture from swimming or bathing inside that canal. It creates a literal greenhouse effect.
Ugh, that sounds like a perfect breeding ground.
It becomes the ultimate microclimate for opportunistic pathogens, particularly Malsetsia yeast and various bacteria, to multiply explosively. That is why checking the ear isn't just about hygiene. It is about disrupting that microclimate before an infection takes hold.
But the physical checks are only half the detective work. The transcript makes a crucial point that the earliest warning signs of a shifting baseline aren't physical lumps or ear infections. They are incredibly subtle behavioral shifts.
Very subtle.
We're talking about a dog showing maybe 10% less enthusiasm when you grab the leash, or leaving 3 bites of food in the bowl when they normally lick it clean.
Or just sleeping in a different room.
Right. Maybe they are seeking out a cooler spot on the tile floor to sleep, or they're napping for an extra hour in the afternoon. So what does this all mean? To me, it means the owner acts as the dog's check engine light sensor.
I like that, the check engine light.
Dogs are masters of masking pain. It's an evolutionary survival trait. They can't tell you they have a migrating headache or that their hip cartilage is aching. The only voice they have is that slight hesitation at the bottom of the stairs. That is the check engine light flickering on the dashboard.
This raises an important question, though. How intentionally do we truly observe our dogs in our day-to-day lives?
It's a good question. Probably not as much as we think.
Right. We share our homes with them. We spend hours in their physical presence. But are we actually watching the nuances of their behavior?
Yeah.
The text introduces a really powerful concept here called quiet advocacy.
Quiet advocacy, it's such an evocative term.
It is. It stresses the absolute necessity of keeping highly organized, accurate medical records. Logging every vaccine batch number, every subtle shift in a blood panel, the specific dates of any behavioral changes. Some people use apps like VitalPet to organize this stuff, though obviously an app doesn't replace the vet.
Of course. But the idea is that you're maintaining that background diligence.
It is brilliant because it bridges the crucial gap between the owner's subjective intuition and the veterinary clinic's objective science. You, as the owner, possess the subjective data.
Because I'm the one living with the dog.
Exactly. You are the only one who could detect that the check engine light is flickering because you are the only one who intimately knows the dog's daily rhythm. But a subjective feeling that something is slightly off is very difficult for a vet to diagnose.
They need hard facts.
When you pair that subjective observation with an organized, objective timeline of records, you give the veterinarian the ultimate diagnostic key. You ensure that when you notice that slight behavioral shift, the vet has the exact data trail needed to find the root cause quickly, whether it is during a routine visit or a sudden trip to a specialist.
It reframes the entire concept of pet ownership. You are no longer just a bystander or a provider of food. You are their primary medical advocate, their daily detective, their record keeper.
It's a very active role.
It completely shatters the illusion that the maintenance phase is just a boring waiting room between the chaos of puppyhood and the decline of senior care. It is a highly active daily practice of building resilience.
And it requires a tremendous amount of discipline. It is incredibly easy to be engaged and disciplined when you have a 9-week-old puppy who is actively chewing the furniture.
Yeah, they demand your attention.
Or a 13-year-old dog who clearly needs assistance navigating the hallway. The urgency forces you to act. It is infinitely harder to maintain that level of discipline and observation when your 4-year-old dog appears to be in the prime of their life and nothing is visibly wrong.
So let's synthesize exactly what we've unpacked today. Navigating the maintenance phase of your dog's adulthood demands a multi-tiered approach. First, you have to leverage a strong partnership with your vet, utilizing comprehensive annual exams not to find broken things, but to establish highly specific internal and external baselines.
Get that baseline.
Second, you build an invisible internal shield tailored specifically to your dog's regional threats and lifestyle through vaccines, parasite control, and baseline blood panels.
The internal shield, yeah.
Third, you have to ruthlessly manage the daily grind, maintaining a lean body mass to starve off the endocrine inflammation of fat tissue, utilizing exercise as joint capital, and recognizing that brushing their teeth is critical systemic defense for their internal organs.
Keep the bacteria out of the bloodstream.
And finally, you have to adopt the mindset of an observant detective. Understanding the microclimate of floppy ears, watching the dashboard for subtle behavioral check engine lights, and practicing quiet advocacy through meticulous record keeping.
It's a lot, but it's so worth it.
I want to throw a challenge to you, listener, right now. Sometime today, when your dog is just lounging next to you on the couch, run your hands firmly over their ribcage. Check the biological reality against the visual illusion. Lift the flap of their ear and actually look at the canal. Start exercising that quiet advocacy today.
I love that challenge. And as you begin to actively manage that maintenance phase, I want to leave you with one final thought to mull over.
Go for it.
The transcript concludes by acknowledging that the inevitable next step in this biological journey is senior care. If the entire goal of dog adulthood, this massive, unglamorous middle chapter we've just dissected, is strictly about establishing and defending a normal baseline, how do we psychologically prepare ourselves as their advocates for the exact moment when that baseline inevitably and permanently shifts as they cross the threshold into their senior years?